morning and welcome back to Third Ear Radio. We are your Motivation Monday.
I told you. It runs in the
Ruth
family.
Is over here cutting up.
It runs in the family.
No, it's Ruth over here. No, it's Ruth cutting up today.
Y'all know I'm the good girl.
Welcome back. We're so glad that you joined us again. We are excited. We have a midwife in studio today, Allegra Gill. She's going to be our guest later on. I'm excited to have her in here and talk about the practice of natural birth. We're also going to talk about spiritual birthing as a process, not just for yourself, but when you are actually giving birth. That's what we're going to talk about today. So as always, we're going to have our guru, Ruth, set the tone for us. Ruth?
Lord, would you just heal this girl? Okay.
She's talking about herself, God.
You know, I'm always good for healing. Okay. So let's just take a breath. And breathing in deeply, let us just go in for a moment. And breathing in again, just so we're centering, knowing, and being. And so today I know that this is the greatest day of our life. That this day was created out of the mind of God for each person within the listening ear. To know that you are indeed birthing each and every day. That in every breath you have the chance to start anew, to choose again. And so today, as Allegra talks to us about the first breath that you take, coming onto this planet and allowing yourself to be a spiritual being within the human experience, we know that today will set the tone for the rest of our lives. And we give thanks for this, knowing that it was created out of the mind of God. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. All right. So, Ruth, how was your weekend?
Fabulous as always.
As always, just like you.
Oh, well, okay. Listen, I got some stuff I want to talk about
great.
now. On Channel 7 this week, they had a thing called Lemons for Leukemia. And as many of you know, I am a leukemia healed woman. Mm-hmm. And so they were doing lemons for leukemia. I hope that you know and are coming out to our Healing Day for Women at the California Jazz Museum on March 24th. It's from 10 to 2. But on that day, we will have a booth with lemons for leukemia, so that as you squeeze the lemon, you allow yourself to give your saliva so that they can do a stem cell testing. And it allows people to know who you are, where you are, and that the stem cells are available. We're excited about this. I know that I never had to have stem cells because God just took me and just cleaned me out. But, for those who need it and for future references, we will have that booth available, and I'm really excited about doing that. Okay, so I saw a show called The Gents. Went to a play over in Leimert Park. You do know that they're building up over there and that the creative spaces are coming up. They're going to be doing lots of plays. Barbara Morrison has the jazz. It's just a wonderful place to be. If you don't go to that part of the city, you might want to take a visit. In the meantime, the play was written by Bill Duke. It was a fantastic play. Took me back to the day, girl, because he was talking about the Gents, which was a group that hung around on the street corner. And I remember back in the day we had a group called the Businessmen in South Park that hung out on the street. That was bad dudes. Anyway, shout out to the Businessmen. So, everything is God. And within that play, you got to see how sometimes we can stay stuck, but sometimes we can grow. And that we have so many choices in life that we can make. So if you get an opportunity, please check out some of the plays in the Leimert Park area. You'll learn a lot. Remember that God sends it in so many forms so that you can't miss it. It's through music, it's through plays, it's through movies like the Black Panther, which is one of the largest grossing films going on. And we're not even going to talk about it being black. We're just going to say it's the largest because it was created out of a large God. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I'm excited about that. So, great things are happening. What you got to talk about?
Well, I had a really good weekend. It was relaxing. Most of you guys know I own a salon, so my weekend is really Sunday. That's if I'm off. So I had it was pretty relaxing. That was good for me. Got to stay in and enjoy the cold weather from the inside of the warm house with the nice fireplace lit. So just a little downtime for me. So that's always good. Nothing eventful, which is eventful for me. So, yes, that was great.
Well, I'm going to say that we're talking about birthing today with Allegra. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the birthing started for me when I saw the booth for Lemons for Leukemia. Because remember that this is a part of our body that we're going to use to birth healing into someone else's body. You know, the birthing process is so many things. Sometimes it could be words that you say to people that birth a new idea within them so that they can make changes or grow in their life or just take a leap of faith and do something like this crazy show that we do every week together. And, you know, but we're having a ball and we're accepting the idea that God gave. It birthed itself and here we are. Right. So, you know, we got to remember that in thinking about birthing, everything is available. What are you open to receiving? Right. And this is what I got out of this weekend. You know, even watching the play of seeing the guys standing on the corners, they had a choice. They could stay on the corner or they could leave. Some of them stayed, and then they wondered, why didn't I make that choice? Why didn't I move? You know? So when we think about birthing, go deeper than just being in the illusional world of what you're seeing. Go deep and sometimes sit in meditation and say, you know, what does this actually mean to me? Because I know that there's something wonderful for my life. I know that there's great change. I know that everything that I'm seeking is seeking me. And if I can just open my mind a little bit, that birthing idea will come to me.
Well, you know, Ruth, you and I both have had the fortunate opportunity of being present when or assisting people in the capacity of that are preparing for birth to give birth. I wouldn't take the role or assign myself the role as saying I was a doula, but I've been a birthing coach for people before. And being witness to watching the woman being pregnant, thinking about, especially when it's a woman's first time. And I think the majority of the people that I've been present for when they've given birth, it has been their first time. They have no idea what to expect. They are prepared in their mind until that actual moment starts. And when they're in the room, you feel it's the closest thing between life and death. And you really feel like, hold on. You really feel outside of your body during that process. And so to be witness to that and then watch that baby come out and then the mother's eyes be fresh and new because she has no idea what to expect. But here it is. This is what it looks like. Now what do we do? I feel honored to have been present during that, but it also helped me in my coaching process because I'm able to watch people manifest a vision. And when they give birth to the vision, they have no idea what it's going to look like. You have an idea of what you want it to look like, just like when you're giving birth to your baby. You're like, I want a boy. I want him to be brown skinned with chubby cheeks. And I always wanted my children to look like that. They always came out yellow with a lot of hair. But, you know, hey, it's a beautiful baby. I loved it. But just like that process, you have a fantasy about what it is that you're giving birth to and what you want it to be. But when it gets here, it is what it is. And then when the baby arrives, what will you do with it? So that birthing process, it absolutely happens with life, but it happens in life with so many things. When you want to start a business, when you want to form a movement, you have to give birth to your vision. And so that's kind of what we're talking about as a topic before we move into what we're going to speak about with Allegra.
Okay, so you know what? This is what happened for me. Cynthia and I, you know my girlfriend Cynthia.
Yes,
Cynthia Wade, hey girl, shout out.
We're birthday twins.
Okay, birthday twins. So about 15 years ago or so, London's 23. Okay, so 25 years ago, Cynthia and I decided that we had heard about doulas. We knew we didn't want to birth the baby, but we wanted to have something to do with that process. So what we did is we started working with women in their second trimester of pregnancy. And what we did is help them to create a relationship with the baby as the baby grew. So we had them talking to the baby, reading to the baby. We would come in and meditate with the baby, and we would let the baby know how welcome they were going to be to the planet. But what it did is it also helped the mother to get her head into alignment and to prepare herself. Also, if the father were there, we would invite them to be a part. But most times it was us and the mother. Out of that, we were able to go to the hospital and participate by standing in meditation and talking to the mother and allowing her to work with her breathing exercises, which we taught along the way, so that the birth was easy for the baby. But what you just said is so true, because this is exactly the same thing you do when you're birthing anything in your life.
Right.
You have to have that nurturing period where you talk to yourself. You have to come into a consciousness of breathing, meditating, seeing the birth path opening up so the baby can move through smoothly, knowing that they don't have to have, what's that thing they do when they cut
epidural.
Epidurals
or
C-sections.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I know sometimes those things are necessary, but if we can do a baby bonding while you are pregnant, then once that baby comes here, it recognizes your voice, it knows who you are, you already have a relationship. Your body responds because it's ready for the baby, and the baby comes out because it's ready to be in the world and meet you for the first time.
Yes.
It's a beautiful experience, and we do it normally when they go into their third month of pregnancy, and then over a period of the next 6 months, we will work with them sometimes once a week. And as it got closer to the birthing period for the baby, we will go a couple of times a week. And that keeps the mother from having the anxiety, the depression, being afraid. You know, you've already bonded with your baby, and so maybe that will cut down on what is it the women have after they have
postpartum
the baby? Postpartum depression. Because one thing Precious said is, the baby's here. What do I do now? Well, you've already had an experience of getting to know each other.
So you're bonding.
So the baby actually will respond to your voice.
Yes.
That's why sometimes
they respond to the dogs next door.
No, you know how sometimes
they hear in utero.
When the daddies had a baby and they said, I gave him the baby to smell the mama's bowels and the baby stopped crying. That's that bonding.
Yeah.
And that starts once you start creating a relationship with your baby. Don't be so medical that you just think that when you go to the doctor to get your checkup that's it, because that's not it. That's
the first baby that I was able to be present for was my brother Akhenaten. I was 8 years old, and I remember seeing things like what I now recognize to be angels in the downstairs of the house. And in my family, it was a practice that everyone in the family is in the room when the baby is born. So I actually got to see my brother crown and everything. And that he's a miracle because he was born blue. His cord was wrapped around his neck several times, so he had to be rushed to Martin Luther King Hospital to be revived. And he's a miracle baby, gorgeous as ever and intelligent. That's a testimony to how good God is. But ever since then, whenever I did a birthing process with someone, and a lot of those people I've been related to, I go into the hospital when you go into the hospital, and I don't leave until that baby is here. And I'm for the mother. And so whatever the mother needs, I'm right there with the mother, giving her assistance. And much like coaching, I'm with you until you birth that process through. I assist you in your visualization. And like Ruth said, your meditation and your yoga, whatever exercises you need to pull you through. So the process of birthing is a spiritual one. A lot of people don't think about it in that way. They think of when you think birth, you think medicalized, you think sterilized, and that's not the way it was intended to be, in my opinion. I'm not knocking that process, but I just found for myself the more natural the process, the more beautiful, and it lends itself to a more spiritual process.
Well, one of the things is, the organization that I had is called the Red Tent.
That's right.
The Red Tent was actually created by women at a certain time of the month when they would go into the tent and they would spend time together, share conversations, talk about being a woman and the process of birthing a baby. People say that it was ritual. No, not really ritual. Just a bonding period for women to speak and understand, to take the fear out of even being a woman and allowing yourself to go through the process. I find many times the reason some women say I can't get pregnant or things are going on is because there's a lot of fear attached to it. So when you're working out of the Red Tent, that's why we have gatherings for women, so that you can learn how to deal with this process of growing. Right now they got what they call the dreamers. When I was, what do they call us? Yuppies or something. Anyway, why do we always give who we are a name? We're women. And one of the things that I want to say to you is I don't care if you're 17, 23, 45, 65, or 70. You're still a woman. The same feelings, the same things that were going on in your head. If you haven't worked on yourself, some of the same process of problems you came with are still going on. And you can tell by the way you live it. It's important that women communicate. It's important that we become aware of our bodies, that we touch ourselves, that we look in the mirror, that we have conversations so that we can get get rid of the fear of birthing within our lives, even as we grow. And remember that there is no separation, because my hips might not roll like a 20-year-old, but I still like to dance. I just got to say that. It's time for us to take our break, come back and listen to the third ear. All right now. That's what I'm talking about.
You are hilarious.
Woo!
I was about to make a point before you rolled us into break. Slow down.
We went past our break.
Oh, okay.
I looked at him, I said, oh, shoot. We went past it.
No, well, I was laughing at the hip roll comment. But wherever you are in your journey to manifesting your greatest self, remember, just like birthing, it is a process, okay? Wherever you are, you might be early in your first trimester. You might be ready to crown. But wherever you are, keep the vision, stay calm, remember to breathe, and just see your way through to the other side, because that is the key. To stay centered, to stay grounded, and remember that others before you have done it and others after you will. You'll be okay. All right? So
let's talk with Allegra. We'll be right back.
Right. So let's roll our way out into this break.
Well, okay, because that's what they do.
Okay, we were just talking about how funny Ruth is and how she keeps us going.
Well, you know what I know? Life is a party, baby. If you really realized how much fun it could be, you would laugh and giggle like me.
I'm laughing and giggling with you because I know you know what's
Let's
up.
do it.
I know you've been rolling on a 1 hour sentence for 5 years, baby. So we know you know where it's at. So okay, without further ado, let's welcome our in studio guest, Allegra Gill.
Hi.
Welcome, Allegra. We are happy to have you.
So excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited for people to learn about birthing options.
Yes.
That's the purpose of this show, so that people have more information so that they can be informed and make better choices. So why don't you inform the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Allegra Gill. I'm a home birth midwife serving the Los Angeles area. I'm also a lactation consultant. I'm a mom, and I help people know what their options are.
Yes.
On my way to becoming a midwife, I served a lot of families working in the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot there. I learned a lot about the system, and that helped to solidify why I want to be a home birth midwife, why I wanted to be a home birth midwife, really to give people, what we call midwifery care informed consent, right? It's like we're going to talk about everything so that people can find out what works best for them, because there is no one size fits all, right?
Right.
And like you said, there seems to be like this right now in our country, in our community, there's this idea of like a medicalized birth,
Right.
and then that is scary.
Yes.
Like you were saying, there's so much fear around it. And people feel like they need to be in the hospital. They need to be in the hospital or else they're going to die. They need to be in the hospital or else their baby's going to die. And that's just not the truth. The data keeps saying time and time again, if somebody is healthy and low risk, it's actually safer for them to be outside of the hospital than in the hospital. But it takes a while to get that information out there.
Right.
A lot of times people, they'll go, to the hospital and they'll have a tough experience and they'll think that it's justified. But a lot of times birth workers will be in the hospital and will see that what we call the cascade of interventions that actually takes a normal low risk experience and elevates it to a risky situation. So people feel like, oh, I needed that emergency C-section. My baby needed, forceps, when really it was kind of like that wasn't the main thing that was happening. That was a domino effect of little things. So, just looking at midwifery care, I treat pregnancy and birth as a normal process of the body. I don't see it as a disease.
Right.
I don't see it as something that needs to be treated.
It is a natural birth process. It is a natural process. I believe.
So, taking that time, when I meet with my clients, I'm sitting with them for an hour every time we meet, kind of like what you were doing, talking with them about their mental health, about their physical health, what's happening in their relationships, what's happening in their household. And yes, we're checking in, physically on the mom's body, looking at especially hypertension, anemia, those kinds of things. And also the baby. Is this baby getting what it needs? Is this baby growing appropriately? Is this baby telling us if it needs something different? And again, encouraging people to speak to their babies. A lot of times moms forget that their babies are right there with them all the time. And especially, becoming a parent for the first time, there's a lot of healing and growth that can happen. And a lot of times what's happening in that first time a woman or a pregnant person is becoming a mother is they're processing their own experience inside of their mom's body. Right? And so I've worked with a lot of clients where, they're just not happy being pregnant, or they're just, and I talk to them to get really down to the bottom of it, and they remember their mom's experiences and what their mom said about her. Oh yeah, my mom, lost a close family member when I was in utero, and not saying that, oh, that was a negative experience and so you're going to have a bad experience.
It's impactful.
It's impactful, and let's work on it, right? Because pregnancy is long for a reason. It's really, it's almost a year, right? And it's a time of growth. It can be because, as the baby is growing inside of the body, all of the emotional stuff that gets stuffed down, it floats up to the top. And if you have support, it becomes very easy to clear that stuff away. But if you're ignoring that stuff, you just keep trying to stuff it in, there's no room. And it explodes.
So it sounds like in your practice, you're treating the whole person.
Oh, absolutely. The whole family, really. Because there's I attended a lot of births before I became a mother myself. My daughter's almost 3. And before I was a mom, I was kind of like you, all about the parents. That was like the fascinating part. It was like seeing people go from like individuals to parents was like, that was my favorite part of the process. Once I had my daughter and I saw a midwife throughout my pregnancy and I was able to, deliver her naturally at home, with my partner was able to receive her with a midwife. It was a transformative moment in my life, and I feel like I changed on a cellular level.
Yes.
And now, as I'm a midwife and I'm helping people, I'm all about the babies, right? I'm just like, what about this baby's experience? Because now I'm a mother and I'm bonded with babies, right? And so even though I was doing this work for a long time, and I thought I was I thought that I was thinking about the babies, but really now that I'm a mom, I know that I wasn't.
Until you become a mom, you don't even know that you don't know. You know, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing, Yeah.
I remember when I was like newly postpartum, I said, I feel like I'm in a new room of a house I've always lived in. And it was still my own body, but everything was different.
Everything's different.
My relationship with my partner was different. My relationship with my mother was different. With myself was different. And now I had this baby to raise. And it was a lot. And I feel like it's hard to go through that, but it has so much rich and fertile potential for spiritual growth and emotional growth if you have the support to go along with it. When you look at the medical model of care, it's really just like, is this person alive?
Right.
Is this baby okay? Is this baby alive? It's like not very much support outside of life or death. Right?
I remember when I was pregnant for the first time, we used to go, the doctors were very cut and dry with us. You go in there, measure your stomach, take your weight and say, okay, we'll see you in a month. And so there was no relationship with the doctor, saying, have you ever been through the birth process? Maybe I can stop and talk to you about it. So is that something, since you've had a baby and you've been working with, do you have a process that you start the mother with where you talk them through certain things or talk to them about things that they can look forward to? How does your interview go with them?
Absolutely. So you mean like the first time we meet?
Yes, when you first meet with them, what do you tell them? What is your program?
Oh, yeah. So I tell them about what they can expect from me, right? So I tell people that I see them at the same schedule that they would see their OB, which is once a month until 28 weeks, so almost the third trimester, just about third trimester, and then every other week until 36 weeks, and then every week until they have their baby. Mm-hmm. So I tell them that's similar with the OBGYN schedule, but what's different is that our meetings are so much longer. I have my clients all have my cell phone. They can reach out to me if they have any questions. I'm really available to them in this process. And then we talk about other ways that they can prepare themselves. And a lot of times that comes up in our prenatal meetings because it isn't, like I said, it isn't one size fits all. So some people need a lot of emotional work and other people feel like they just want like the physical aspects of it. So depending on that, sometimes I refer to coaches, sometimes I refer to chiropractic care, sometimes I refer to hypnosis, depending on how much, trauma or how many past experiences need to be worked on in this pregnancy, because my goal is to help my clients get to the point where they feel ready to birth their baby.
So in other words, you kind of get a history, you take a history on them, like not just their medical history, but their conscious history about who they are and that type of thing.
Excellent.
Because one of the things that I noticed in having 5 children is that there are certain things about my children's personality, knowing what person I was at the time that I was carrying them and my life experience, seeing some of that personality come forth. Mm-hmm. So, my oldest son, Tommy, was an asthmatic. Now, on a metaphysical level, that means afraid to breathe. Mm-hmm. For me, I was afraid to breathe. I was 19 years old, pregnant, and had no conversations with my mother about birthing. So I had a lot of fear. And I'm sure that fear carried down through the womb because there was no talk about how to communicate with your babies. You were just pregnant. So that's why, when I asked you about, your communication, I'm really happy to hear that because it's very important from my point of view that you talk to the baby, that you get to know the mom, because we carry so much stuff. So do you find that some of the girls are going through a process where you do have to take them through some healing work other than just the birthing? Do you talk to them about meditation or?
Yeah, meditation, a lot of yoga. Right now, I feel like it's, we're all on our phones so much and our brains don't really get a chance to turn off. So it's a lot of like encouraging people to unplug and connect with what their body is telling them that they need. A lot of times it's like sleep stuff or anxiety stuff, and it's just like it's difficult to take the time to meditate without having that kind of encouragement. But, you keep talking about the babies, talking to the babies and understanding, it's proven that babies can remember what they hear up to as early as 28 weeks gestation. So that's really amazing, right? And if we think that we have this baby all the time experiencing everything, especially when things are tense, when I have clients that are really working through a lot in this, clients with abuse or in really intense stress, I remind them, talk to your baby. Because the baby is hearing all the conversations that are going on.
They're participating.
And so it is really important to talk to the baby and to say, I'm feeling really upset right now. This is not about you. I love you. Your dad loves you. Everybody loves you, but we're just working on our own stuff out here because the baby can take that stuff on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I, with both of my children were born in a hospital. I prayed through my pregnancy with both children, and I was blessed to have a nurse midwife each time. And I was able to give birth in whichever hospital's birthing room, which they flip out to be like a home, like you're at home. And
like a birthing center.
It was a birthing, yes, it was their birthing center in each place. And I had natural both times. My first time going in, I had no idea what to expect. And when they told me to look down at my baby, I was so tired of pushing. I saw one arm out. I grabbed her and pulled her up on my chest. And they were like, wow, you delivered your baby. And I was thinking, wasn't I supposed to deliver the baby? I didn't know what that meant. So my mom was always my doula. She actually received doula training when she was younger. Can you inform the audience what's the difference between a doula and a midwife?
Yeah.
You've been both, right?
I've been both, yeah. So a doula is a support person who has some kind of training, be it self-taught or, a certified. They're like national certification agencies for doulas as well. But it's just somebody who's pretty much in your corner. Somebody who the pregnant person gets to choose. Right. They get to meet with them to help them prepare, and then they know that they can depend on that person to be them for them in their, when they go into labor. So it's like being on call for them. That person, a doula can have many different strengths. They can be a massage therapist. They can be cooks. They can be... what else? Acupuncturist. They can know about yoga and meditation, essential
prayer
oils.
Was my superpower. My prayer was my superpower.
And they're just going to go with you wherever you need to go. A midwife is kind of, a midwife is supportive like a doula, but has the medical skills and training. So, like, I'm licensed by the medical board in California, and there are some things that there are some things that I that are within my scope, and then there are some medical things that are outside of my scope. So a lot of times people birthing at home will have a midwife and a doula just because the roles are different.
Yes.
My job as a midwife is to ensure that everybody is safe. I have the medical responsibility. If there's an emergency, I'm the one that's going to step in.
Right.
The doula is more there for like upliftment and support. And I think that, you can kind of choose, if you're having a home birth, you can choose to have a doula or not. If you're having a hospital birth, I say every person needs a doula.
So how long is your training for the midwife? What does that entail?
So it's a lot of like attending birth. It's a lot of
I watched
homework.
You go through some of that process.
It took me 3 years. I think if I had been a mother, it would have probably taken me twice as long. It was my motivation to, get done. Because it's a lot of service, and I was working as a doula at that time, so it was a busy time in my life. I haven't even told you about this, but I told you about the new space that we have opening up. And then, so there's a new center for families. It's where my clients are going to go to receive prenatal care with me. It's right at, thank you.
Yes.
It's right at La Tijera in Centinela. But there's also another little piece called the Birthing Peoples Foundation. And so we recently had a, all person of color doula training that we'll be having probably 3 or 4 times a year. So we just had our first one, and it was really amazing. And so it's figuring out, how to show up for our own community to help people feel supported and feel safe, because we know that we have we have a maternal mortality situation that's
very
happening
high
right now. It's very high, and it's very unfortunate.
Very high.
And so I'm trying to figure out how we can create more birth workers of color to provide culturally competent care that feels safe and good for the people who need it.
Do you find that there's a lot of resistance with people of color when it comes to working with a doula or a midwife? A lot of resistance?
I feel like there is maybe not resistance, but not really seeing the need so much. I feel like it's a lack of education, maybe just because it's not as prevalent.
Not enough awareness.
So I feel like the more, and it's just like, it's same with like home birth, right? It's like if people have had experience with birthing, then they know, it's like, oh, I know I want to have home birth.
I want it with my son. I wanted it.
But if you don't have that, if you don't have a friend or a sister or somebody really close who's been through it, you still have that idea of, oh, the safest place for me is going to be in the hospital, even though the data is actually showing that for women of color is not the safest place. It's actually the most dangerous place.
Yeah, I recall one of the people I assisted in the birthing process, the doctor requested her to come in on that Thursday evening because Rosh Hashanah was on that Monday, and he needed her to hurry up and have the baby. And I just thought, you're not going to go for this, are you? Actually, you have a birthing plan. Remember but it was, people automatically trust what the doctor says.
Yeah.
And
that would be a really important time to, if somebody were to have a doula, because a doula cannot give medical advice, and a doula cannot go against what the doctor's saying. But a doula would say something like, that's really interesting. I really wonder about that. That's really interesting that your doctor wants you to do that. Did they give you any other options, or did you tell them that you didn't want to be induced, or that you want to wait? And so you kind of give them the language to advocate for themselves.
So do you go out into the community, like places like the Watts Health Center and those types of places that offer to have conversations with the women who are going through their pregnancies or to any of the clinics? Are you allowed in to have those types of conversations?
Yeah, we can, make inroads and do that. It is kind of a slower process, but I feel like people are open to it. But
Why?
Just because, there's kind of other things happening in life, and so I would need to go and. I'm really interested in getting in with the WIC offices and being able to reach the people, being able to reach the people that don't know what services are available to them, and to make sure that they know that it's because again really
because one of the things that I noticed is when we were doing the work with the pregnant women, we would get teenagers, like 14 years old, 15 years old, pregnant children that are pregnant, afraid, scared, and they really need that type of service. I really feel that we should work on some type of program that they write into the medical program as support for that, because the death rate in our community is so high, and a lot of those girls live in certain areas where they don't go to the doctor. So do you go out into the community, do any community work like in the projects or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. My partner, Kimberly Durden, who's a lactation consultant, she does a lot of work with the women in Watts, and now that my baby is getting bigger, I'm able to kind of be more involved in the, in the community outreach, because I feel like this a lot, like there are people who want to do good and there are services that are available, but then it's a matter of taking that information to the people who need the services and making sure that they know that it's available.
Because a lot of times they're not going to come. We got to take it to them,
And people need to feel welcome.
And they need to feel like,
because we have a long history of feeling
outside.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that people know that these services are available for them, and it's here for them.
I want to say this, Allegra. I've known you for some years now, and I have watched you when you went into being licensed and then when you became a mother, and I think that you becoming a mother has absolutely transformed who you are. I always thought you were like one of the chosen ones. You know what I mean? So I definitely believe you're in your purpose, doing what God intended for you to do. But when you became a mother to that beautiful girl, I watched your spirit, everything deepen. You know what I mean? And I think that it's not that if a midwife doesn't have a child, she can never understand, especially if she's purposed to do what she's purposed to do. She's going to be a great midwife. But I'm just saying, I have watched you grow, and I'm watching you really grow with your own space and everything. I'm so proud of you. And I love seeing young women out there doing it, making a path for themselves with passion. So congratulations to you. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so much. It feels like, it just feels like a big gift. I always felt grateful to be able to do this work. That is my passion.
Don't get emotional. You're going to make me cry, girl.
I won't. My mom is always an inspiration for me. And she, just seeing the experiences that she had, and she had like a very tough, hard first baby, in her mid-20s before she kind of was able to do the research herself. She went the medical route, and had my eldest sister, and then she had children, much older. She had me when she was 38, and so in the 80s, now that's kind of more common, but in the 80s that was definitely an older mom. And she always tells me, they wanted me to have all these like amniocentesis and wanted me to do all this stuff because I was older. And she just told them, she's like, leave me alone. She's like, I'm not doing that. My baby.
I'm having this baby.
Do you sometimes feel, and I feel this way, sometimes I think that the medical field overworks it. With all of the things that they want to do, sometimes I think they overwork the mechanical and forget about the personal touch or the setting of ideas, because if you're doing, what are those things? Ultrasounds, if they're doing all those ultrasounds, it's like they're looking for something, and so it kind of creates a fear. Well, what's my what's going to happen this time?
What's wrong with my baby?
Well, if the leg is and I think that it's important that they have nurturing by certain women like yourself or like myself, or women who will play that role, because we don't have those conversations. And I think about these so many of the young women, and 19, 14, that's a young age to have a baby and to not know anything.
I was 19, so, like you, Ruth.
I think that a program such as what you're doing is going to be fantastic for the community. I'd like to see it grow in so many ways. I'm going to invite you to come out on the 24th.
I want to, I feel like I would love to have a table there and let people know what we're
speak about that, because our community, I find we don't have enough conversations, and we've got to build a bonding of trust.
We do. We really do.
Among women, because
we really
we've been
do.
separated a lot by the sexuality and a lot of the thoughts and things that people
competition.
Say. We've been taught to compete against each other and to view ourselves as, just meat and not really a woman going through the process of creating a new life. So, can you tell me a little bit about what are some of the things that you'll have in your clinic? Will you hold workshops there? What will you be doing?
Very good.
Absolutely. So, so the space is being birthed right now.
Yes.
It's a little bit
Speaking
crazy
of the
right
birthing
now.
process.
We had my partner's been in there painting, and we're just kind of like setting it up and making it really homey.
Talk about the birthing process,
talk
right?
about the birth. Yeah, we're in it right now. But the space it'll be community space. It'll be space for my clients to come for their prenatal meetings, all of those checks. We have everything there. And then we have like a nice big room for workshops and trainings. We know that we're going to have, movement classes for moms and babies. We know we're going to have moms groups in there, parents groups, people who are new in the process and walking that path with their child as they develop so rapidly. Those parents need a lot of support. We're going to have actually Crone Circle. Do you know what that is?
I do.
No,
So Crone Circle is for a woman who is done with her menstruation. And so it will be like a woman's group, but for all people who are past that
wait
point.
to be a part of that
really
group.
going to be great.
And that's what we need. And there's so many women, especially black women, who have hysterectomies, and they are younger and having all of these experiences of menopause.
I don't want to be in that group for that reason. I want to be in menopause.
That's real important because that's part of the conversation that I feel that women need to have. What we have to stop doing is separating ourselves by age.
I agree.
Because we are here to teach each other.
And it's cyclical. We go back and forth.
And what happens is you get women, like you say, who have hysterectomies, or women who come to a certain age in life where they don't no longer have the monthly thing going on, but they have all the side things that come after.
Exactly.
Because I'm going to tell
and they don't
you
know what to do about them.
Well, I want to say this, and I do know it to be the truth. Even when you get a certain age, you still have those days.
The cycle.
You have the cycle days.
Even though
a lot
the
of
cycle
people
is
don't
missing.
talk about that, or they'll act like, but you have the cycle days. You'll have that day where you wake up that morning, you're feeling a little hot, you want some ice cream and things, and you go, I thought that's but it is. So it's important. I hope that, my hope is to see centers of your type and other places open up where women are having more honest conversations about birthing, about the process of it, getting beyond the fear. It's, it's just really important. And we can't always look at the technical part of it. We've got to come back to the center of love. We're human beings.
I have a few people who I know are watching. Can we talk about the topic of geriatric pregnancy? Because you look at women who are they're focused on their careers.
Like my mom.
Yeah, and they have children at a later age.
My brother's 42. I'm 20 years older than that.
And what age does geriatric pregnancy start? And can you talk about that? Because that's something that is a little taboo. People are afraid to talk about it, but women need to hear about it.
It's just so messed up. So geriatric pregnancy is the medical term for a person who is having a baby after the age of 35.
You get geriatric at 35.
If you're in your pregnancy and you're 34, but your due date is after your birthday, they still can. And so there's a whole other slew of tests, to check the baby for genetic abnormalities that they will kind of offer, but it doesn't really feel like an offer. It kind of feels like you need to take this mandate.
Mm-hmm. What about if someone is having a geriatric pregnancy and they're seeking your services? Are they going to have those routine screenings like they would if they were in a medicalized birth?
Some of the screenings are like state mandated, which is in not the amnio, and now we have these blood tests that can give us a lot of information. The issue with the testing is sometimes they're accurate and sometimes it's false positive, right? Mm-hmm. So there are some tests that I offer and then some that I almost never do unless there's a clinical reason that I find to do it.
So it would be normal because it's a state mandate for them to receive those testing.
Yes, but a lot of times in midwifery care, people are starting with the medical OB route because that's what they know
how
to
they
be normal.
Entered into it
and then a lot of times they have all of these tests done, and sometimes they don't even know what the tests are. And then they come into midwifery care, and then I'm looking at all of the lab records because I get I'm a medical provider, so I get all of the previous medical history, and then I actually give them informed consent and I talk talk to them about what they've already been tested for and what stuff, what it says.
Right. Okay.
So
in midwifery care, we don't see age as a risk
Good.
factor.
You hear that, ladies?
I was about to
hear that?
I was going to ask you. I wonder why they do that, because I think that women at a certain age, after 35, are in a better position to create a healthy birthing because they don't have the mental
developmentally where they are.
They're developed in so many ways, and they are.
You
really
know a
ready.
little something
They're
by
really
then.
ready for a child. They
ready
can
for
afford
parenting.
Yeah, they're ready.
Right.
And they've reached a point in their career where they're comfortable with it. So I think that it's kind of mythology sometimes, the things that they come up with. And I wonder, I just wonder about that. So
geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, geriatric.
At 35.
My mother had my brother at 42.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 20 years older than him. And she had a normal pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, we were pregnant at the same time, and she was acting like a teenager. But she, there was never any fear about the birth. So I think that we have got to break that myth.
We've been socialized to fear giving birth, period. Because even the pain, now I told you I had natural. So I felt every bit of it. The ring of fire, all that transition, when you start shaking. You do feel like you're going to die, but you don't.
But that's why feeling safe is so important, right? Like,
it is.
Cut it. People who are around you.
So what kind of conversation are you having with the women as you are when you're going through the birthing process? Could you tell us a little bit about what you're saying to them, what you're talking to them about?
When they're in labor?
Yeah, when they're in labor and getting ready. Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot. In labor, it's a lot of reassurance, right? And so some of the scary stuff is like, because I tell people, when you're in labor, things that are normal to happen are abnormal when you're not in labor.
Right, like the feeling of death.
If you're shaking, if you're having all this rectal pressure, like you have to poop but nothing, all of that is normal, right? If you wipe and there's some blood, so I tell people what all of those things are so that when it comes up for them, they have a little reassurance, like a little signpost of like, oh, this is okay. Yeah. I heard about this. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay.
Because words are very important.
Words are very important.
If it's your first time, particularly whether it's your first time having a child or it's your first time doing natural, because we have a lot of people who are getting the vaginal after the VBAC, right?
Absolutely.
And if it's your first time, you really don't know what to expect. So I notice when I've coached people through it, but when it happens, they're like, oh, wait a minute. No, I thought I could make it. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I had one young lady, we're very dear friends to this day, named Jenny. She kept saying, I think I'm going to die. And I said, I know you think you are, but you're not. You're not. You're going to make it through.
I know with my daughter, Kelly, Cynthia and I were in the room with her. I went out after a while because, I became the mother.
The mother, right?
But
Cynthia stayed in the last few minutes. And what she did is she worked with my daughter. My daughter actually went into labor at her baby shower.
Oh, wow.
And she was doing her breathing and meditation while she was there. Nobody knew she was even, going through the labor process. She had the baby within 45 minutes of leaving the baby shower. And it was a process of her using the breathing, the visualization, and Cynthia talking her through in the room.
Was that her first baby?
Breathe, her first baby.
Wow, very good.
Breathe.
Yeah, when you learn to work with your body instead of against your body.
And because I feel that Kelly, she was so receptive to being a mother that she followed what she knew, and it made it easier. And that's why I believe that we have to start working with them in the early months of pregnancy, teaching them tools and such as, conversations so that they're more prepared. Yeah. I believe that when you go to the medical clinics, you don't get that type of service. I'm so excited about you doing this. So when will you be up and starting?
We're having our first classes in there on Saturday.
All right.
This is
what classes will these be?
There's childbirth education classes that are starting on Saturday. We'll also have some lactation, some breastfeeding classes to help people prepare for that also.
How can people get in touch with you? Where are you?
So I have a website.
Yes.
So my name is Allegra Hill. My website is radianttransitions.com.
Radianttransitions.com.
The space is called Kindred Space LA. So we have a website coming on that. So that's something about probably 2 weeks we'll be able to have our website up on that. And we'll just be there.
And you're going to have birthing classes this coming Saturday.
Birthing
what other?
This Saturday, we're going to have breastfeeding classes. We will have more circle time during the during the week and classes more on the weekend.
So will you have people such as myself come in and
we
teach
would
you
love to
meditation?
have, we would love.
Always available, quote, quote. Okay, because, no, really, the whole process, radiant transit.
They put it up on the...
Right, yeah, there it is.
The miracle of technology.
I love it. Because it's very important that, you start right at the beginning with those things. I'm so excited about your work.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you all about my favorite thing to talk about.
We got to go back to the top. What inspired you to want to do it before you even had a child?
Oh, yeah. So that, going back to my mother and her experience, and she was able to have my middle sister and I at a birth center with midwives.
Isn't it something?
And so I was received by midwives. My mother had she says her favorite thing in the world to do is to give birth. And so being a little girl turning into a woman, to hear those positive stories about birth, I didn't believe all the nonsense that my friends kind of believed, like what they had heard from their moms or what they had seen on TV. Like that stuff didn't make any sense to me. I was like, I heard that giving birth is a gift and that's something that you get to do, not something that you have to do. And so once I thought about that, I was like, the stories that we hear around birth are really important.
Very
important.
I
feel like I was able to have the birth that I had because I had the information that my mom gave me about
Tell
birth.
us about your birth.
So my idea was I want to help create good, empowering birth stories for moms to tell their kids because that's what they're going to believe more than what they see outside of their household. If the mom or the parent feels empowered in their experience, they're going to be much more connected with their kids. They're going, there's something that changes in the brain that says, I'm going to protect this. I'm going to do what I can to make sure, to provide for this baby. And that is what I wanted. That's why I serve, is to help people have empowering experiences. If they have an epidural, if they have a C-section, if they have an unassisted birth, it's really, for me, it's like, I just want people to feel good. I want them to tell something good about the experience to their kids so that their kids have the idea that they can do what works for them.
I love how open at the top you are. Can you share with us your birth experience? Is that too personal?
Of having my daughter?
Yes. How many weeks were you?
Oh, man, it was a trip.
Okay.
So... yeah, we didn't find out what we were having. I desperately wanted a girl, but I felt like if I pushed a boy out, I would be happy.
Yes.
So I didn't want to find out in office that I was having a boy, at 20 weeks or whatever, and so we waited. I went into labor. Man, it's kind of a long story. How much time do we have? So I kind of, like your daughter, I'd been having like a lot of Braxton Hicks, which are like the practice contractions.
Yes.
And I just knew my baby was going to come early, and that didn't happen. And then I kept having these like Braxton Hicks, and then finally at 41 weeks, I was a week past my due date, I had my midwives come over, and I was like, because I knew that, by law, I had to have my baby by 42 weeks.
Yeah.
The law says you can't have a baby before 37 weeks at home, and you can't have a baby after 42 weeks at home. Right. A lot of midwives feel the way your face is telling me you feel about that, because it puts pressure on the clients for what could be normal for their body. It's like trying to make a parameter where most people will fit, but some people will still be normal and not be within
it's done by men. Okay, come
on. So I hit 41 weeks, and I was like, okay, well, I want to start, encouraging this baby to come, because I'm not trying to have this baby at 42 weeks in the hospital. And so I had my midwives come over, and I laid down in my bed. I wanted them to strip my membranes.
You had the membrane stripping finger going.
I wanted
when you said it.
to strip my membranes. It's actually my partner, Kimberly Durden, was the person that did it. And she said that, she's like, you're about 1 centimeter, but there's some scar tissue here. And I was like, oh, man, because I've been at a lot of births where there's scar tissue. And I was like, well, this is going to be horrible, right? Because the cervix it should get soft and stretchy, right? And so most of my cervix was okay, but there was one part where there was like tense scar tissue. So I was like, whatever. Because at that point I was like huge. Yeah. What can I do to get out of this situation? There's nothing. So I'm just going to go on with my day. That day we went to Kaiser, because that was my like backup situation, to have this non-stress test, which is where they put the baby on the monitor and they make sure it's okay for you to continue your pregnancy, which I recommend for my clients at 41 weeks also. And so the woman doing the test was so nice, and I was just sitting, I take my blood pressure, and then she says to me, "Are you feeling these contractions?" And I was like, yeah, but these have been happening for weeks and nothing's happening. I got checked today. I'm 1, nothing's happening. And the woman is like, oh, because they're about 5 minutes apart lasting a minute. And I was like, okay, well, nothing's happening. And then, so I went home, had a nap. That was also my niece's 10th birthday. So I went to my mom's house for her birthday party because I was like, well, I'll be there unless I'm having a baby. I'm clearly not having a baby. So I'll go to the party. And I was there with my whole family. And I was just having these surges, having these waves. But I was like, nothing's happening because, you know, my cervix isn't changing. Yeah. So I went home and they kind of got like more frequent. It felt like they were maybe like 3 minutes apart, but very mild. And I'm going to tell you the full story because I've known you for a long time. And everybody else is good. So I texted my midwife, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, hey, this is probably nothing. I was kind of defeated at that point. I was like, hey, this is probably nothing. But I'm having these like frequent contractions. I'm going to drink a glass of wine and have a shower and try to go to sleep. I texted her at 11:01. And I went in the bathroom and I was like, what is happening? And I checked my own cervix in the toilet.
Oh my gosh, she's a G.
Popped the scar tissue open. Right? And like this big glob of bloody show came out. And I remember I went into the living room and I told my husband, I was like, I popped my cervix open. I just remember the look on his face. He was like, why did you do that? But then after that point, it got it going, intense. Right? And it spaced them out. They were like 5 minutes apart, but they were super strong. And we had taken the Bradley method, you know, the Bradley childbirth education method is 12 weeks, right? And it's like all these tools it was kind of like Lamaze, but it was more to have that used to be called husband coach childbirth, but now they call it partner coach, and it was about arming yourself to go into the hospital. So I was trying all those tools and like nothing was working. I got in the shower again, I got in the tub again, and it got really intense, and I was like, you need to get the midwives here. And I didn't know this then, but now I know. I started involuntarily pushing in the tub with just my husband there.
It, huh?
And it felt horrible as that transition. I was like, how do I get to the hospital for my C-section? Because this is horrible.
That pain gets
And then I got to the point and I was like, oh, well, I'm probably just going to die. But I have no say over this because it was so intense. And so my doula came, and shortly thereafter my midwives came. And pretty much when my midwives came, my daughter was coming out, but I didn't know because I was high as a kite on my birth hormones. Yeah. And I was actually holding her head in, because I thought my uterus was falling out.
Not the baby, it was your uterus.
I didn't know what was coming out. So my midwife is like, are you having a baby? And I was like, I don't know how to stop this because, she was coming out. It had happened too fast for me. So she moved me to the bed. I pushed 3 times. The baby was like right there. It was the coolest thing ever. I picked her up. I said, it's a girl. That was it. 3 pushes, 9 pounds.
Wow.
3 hours of labor.
Wow.
3 hours of active labor.
Active labor.
Done.
Yeah. Okay, you got us in right in the nick of time to end the show, too. That's a beautiful birth story. I hope that people will reach out to you. They can always watch the show again, Radiant Transitions.
Yes.
To find you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hope to see you on the 24th to come out, you guys.
Remember, on March 24th, we're going to invite her out so you can get a little bit more detailed information. In the meantime, I want you to start checking it out. Go by her center. Yeah. Sit in on one of the classes on Saturday. Maybe she'll have something to talk to you about.
Refer.
We want to create a red tent. Women need to be talking. Birthing can really be easy. I pushed out 5 and I'm still survived.
And cute as ever.
And cute as ever.
And our next week guest is going to be the author. She's an author. Her name is Mona Lisa. And our topic of discussion will be being your authentic self. Yes. And remember, always listen with your third ear. Thank you for seeing us again. Hope you got something today to take back and tell your friends, okay? Thank you. You did great.
Wonderful job.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, see, that goes by quick.
So fast.